people say, are you a book person or are you, for the internet? I think it's a bit like the monks saying that they thought Gutenberg's printing press was the work of the devil. It's already here. It is a way of communicating ideas. In the past, we communicated them through print media. This is the way that people are sharing ideas. What I want to see is education embrace the way that our young people already are communicating and use it more creatively than they do.
Creatively, but also responsibly. In this programme, we'll see some of the best that the internet can enable. This school, for example, is working collaboratively with a school on another continent to enable pupils to invent brand new games.
In the pool, is everyone getting a defending ball as well?
Actually, that's a good point at pool. Yeah, no. Yes, give everybody a defending ball.
But we'll also hear some of the grave dangers that the internet presents to educators. Many will find this admission from a university student shocking.
Most of my GCSE coursework was probably plagiarising because we didn't have to reference and we were never taught about that, although it was important.
One of the issues that came up in our work with universities and colleges was that students were already coming to higher education accomplished plagiarists because of the practices that were happening in schools.
Schools are beginning to wake up to the dangers of plagiarism and are starting to teach pupils about referencing, alongside the use of the web as an immensely powerful research tool.
When you're going to be doing research with me, I'm going to ask you for everything you submit to me to give me a bibliography. Very often I'm going to ask you for rough drafts, so that you're going to show me the process that you did of combining information and putting it into your own words. So at no point can you ever be guilty of plagiarism. Plagiarism is important to teach right from the beginning, because they have to get used to the fact that anything that doesn't come out of their own head, that has come from somewhere else, they have to acknowledge that somewhere else. And the easiest way to do that is to make them aware of how they would feel if someone took their information.
In order to do this, Anne-Marie has devised an exercise that illustrates the consequences of plagiarism.
Now, would you exchange your paper with someone else, please? Exchange your papers with someone else. Right. Make sure you have someone else's paper. Now, would you put your names at the top above the other people's names? When you finish that, you're going to hand them in because I'm going to give you credit for their work. This is your work? Yeah. So, you did a bit more than they did.
Did I?
Yes, but that's okay because they're really happy over here because they're now going to get all your marks. So they'll probably get a star, but you'll probably only get a tick.
Can I swap back?
Can you swap back? Why do you want to swap back, honey?
I need to find a better one.
You need to find a better one to swap with. Is it fair to have somebody else's work? If they get into the habit of immediately, whenever they answer a question, that the first thing they do is write down where the information has come from, it just becomes second nature. You can't add it on later on when bad habits are already there. If you go onto a website and you find really good information about bullying and you want to use it in your poster next week, how could you use it without plagiarizing from that site?
Put it into your own words.
All right, so you can put it in your own words. What else?
You could get two different websites and take a little bit of that and add it to the other one.
So you're combining information from more than one site. That's another part of the equation, but you still are using other people's ideas. It still hasn't come out of your head to begin with.
Whilst Anne-Marie uses literacy sessions within the library to educate pupils about plagiarism, she also spends much of her time supporting teachers in developing pupils' online research skills.
Using the internet, find out 3 things you could do if you were being bullied.
We could go to the anti-bullying website, the one that was on the bottoms on the goalpost thing.
Yeah, that was
the library.
Yeah.
Using the books in the project box, find out 3 things you could do if you are being bullied.
All of the Year 7 pupils spend 1 period a week with me in the library. This is our literacy development in terms of information literacy. It's taking your ability to read further and saying reading for a specific purpose, and in this purpose it's to gather information and use it for a specific target. So what I'd like to do is find out what were successful strategies and what were some less successful strategies, because we can learn from one another. Research, there's not any one way to do these things. There are lots of different approaches, and we can learn from each other. I think in this day and age, with the advent of the internet, these youngsters don't have a shortage of information. They have far too much information. They have to, more than any other generation, learn how to be selective and have very high standards of criteria that they're going to use to choose the best information for their particular need. It's crucial that they know how to do that. So what are the questions you need to ask yourself when you're looking for information? Yes? Why it was written? Yes. What's the purpose of the website? Yes. What else?
When it was written, so you know how updated it is.
Good, so you know it's up to date. Down on paper to start.
Anne-Marie has also worked closely with teachers, supporting them to embrace the internet as a learning resource.
I've been working with the librarian Anne-Marie for 2 or 3 years now. We do normally 2 or 3 projects together each year across the 3 key stages. This is a Year 7 biology lesson, and we're at lesson 2 in a series of 8. Basically what I've tried to do is to build as much research and independent learning into a scheme as possible to try and make as much of the personal learning and thinking skills and the how science works and all the other elements, as well as the ranging content. If you were a manager of a zoo, you wouldn't just live in isolation with your zoo or animal park. You would also go and visit other attractions and try and get the best bits out of there. So there's nothing wrong with that. We call it copying, but actually copying is different. Copying is just writing something out word for word and claiming it's your own. You can take an idea and develop it. And that's a good thing to do. Running alongside this, and we're trialling it this year, is we're running a wiki, which is obviously a content-based website where the students have ownership of that, and there's 4 to a group. They can all have a password and a user ID for that, and they can log on to it and basically upload new resources, new ideas, even have conversations online at home about how their project is progressing, and they've really, really benefited from that.
The wiki is a site that helps communication between pupils, so you can access it from home and then talk to each other and discuss projects. And it's also to give us information that we might not have got from school and get it at home. And it's also just a connection between sort of home and school and the pupils in school.
I think the challenges of putting something like this on are actually confidence. The biggest thing is teacher confidence. Confidence in the resources, confidence in the idea, and also confidence to be able to communicate it to other members of your department that they can do it too. Things that I struggled with in the early stages were the reliability of the technology, and of course, with sometimes internet being down, you plan a lesson, the internet's down and your lesson goes out to the window and you need a plan B. So you've almost got to double plan every lesson to make sure that there is a backup plan. But actually it's very freeing, because once you've got into it, the students give so much.
ICT has also been making headway as a research tool in one of the less obvious departments within the school, that of physical education.
Let's play some games. Games are as follows. Southern Fried Chicken are playing Griffin. Smurfs are refereeing.
PE teacher Ashley Casey has joined forces with Anne-Marie in evaluating a series of brand new games that have been thought up and designed by the pupils themselves online. A professor in America has also given his input via the internet.
Anne-Marie mentioned the wiki site to me, and that kind of set a seed going, and it's taken me about 6 months to come to an idea exactly how to use it. And then mixing it in with Professor Hasty in our discussions, it just seemed to move from paper-based, which sport education is normally, to internet-based, computer-based, with access to so much in terms of resources. So it's been a real way of bringing ICT into PE in a meaningful way, not just let's take some measures and distances and then we'll put them into a spreadsheet. I'm not keen on using ICT in that way unless it's meaningful for the kids.
We're just making some comments on the wiki to put across different ideas that we've had for the game and how it could be improved or changed. Using the wiki gives everybody a great chance to be able to communicate quite easily.
That's available to be edited by the teachers involved, so Mr. Casey and Professor Hasty. So across in America, Professor Hasty can see what we've been developing and give input onto the site, whilst we in games lessons can edit it and play through it and develop it that way.
I think you should be able to move in the zone with the ball, so that you can place it anywhere you want, so it puts more tactics into it.
Yeah, so you could drop it at one side, then run with the
Yeah.
With the wiki, it's definitely given us a lot more input than we could have done ourselves, I believe, that's then helped in sort of creating the game to what they are now.
Like, say that you are actually allowed to move with the ball, and then if you get touched, then that would mean that you had to pass it. So kind of like rugby league, but you wouldn't put it through your legs.
It's so much easier to edit than the paper. If I really wouldn't want this job if I was trying to do it with paper, I'd just have to keep redrawing everything. We've changed the rules on this so many times. Because to start with we had tennis balls, but then we realised they're hard and they hurt, and they just bounce out of the pitch. So we've changed it to bean bags, and now we've realised that's not going to work when we go into the pool. They're just going to sink and we'll never get them back.
So, what do you think so far?
I mean, it's gone really well. These two groups especially have bought into it a lot.
I get such a buzz out of watching the fact that kids who I know are not particularly athletic, but because they are very IT, that's their strength, is IT, suddenly they're bringing something to a games lesson. Well, I know that the kids perceive it as being the cool factor, because one of the lads stopped me in town and said they thought the wiki was really cool and they really, really enjoyed games because, that whole thing of they'd never done a wiki before as a way of collaborating together. So I think we managed to somehow amalgamate what in their eyes is new, cutting-edge IT things with traditional game setting.
And I think it's challenging all different sorts of demographics in terms of what we're trying to do in PE. So much so that I think I might have convinced Siobhan to actually invest in our own wiki for the department, to expand it into teaching of GCSE and other aspects of the curriculum so that the kids get much more hands-on. I mean,
I've been concerned that our youngsters get used to working as individuals. And so it's always about my own personal achievement. And in the world of work, very rarely do you work on your own in isolation and just you achieve. It is always a team effort. You're always asking colleagues to collaborate with you and to share ideas. And the wiki enables that in a way that even in the classroom, they don't necessarily do for peer pressure reasons, whatever, but they get home at night, they send an idea out on the wiki, someone else responds to it, and they somehow work at a much higher level.
I think as we go on to sort of higher education, so through A-level and then onto universities, having the knowledge and the ability to use the internet as research already would definitely be helpful in that sense, that we're able to perhaps not just use it for research but communicate with other people that can then better our understanding of stuff.
As the internet is being increasingly used for research purposes by students, schools are facing pressure to react to the risks of plagiarism.
The surveys that were done back in sort of 2001 by Don McCabe in the US indicate that there was quite a high level of plagiarism both in schools and universities. Institutions are very concerned about it. Institutions believe they've got a very big problem. And at the beginning of this year, the ATL, the Association of Teachers and Lecturers, did a survey of 300 sixth form teachers, and that survey said that 58% of them believed that plagiarism was a big issue.